Thank you. It's great to be on with you. Thank you for having me.
Well, I'm going to play some cuts, and we'll have a little fun with this. But what was interesting to me is that Steve Wynn and Donald Trump, they don't have too much good to say about Mr. Obama, and of course you are a strong supporter of Mr. Obama. It's kind of interesting because you're all in the same field. You all have the same problems, raising money and so forth, but you all look at it differently. So what I'll do is first let's play what Trump has to say, then I'll get a response from you. Okay?
Stop with the fundraisers and start running the country, because you are doing one hell of a lousy job.
For him to say that the business people of this country are lazy is disgusting, especially coming from him.
The policies of this administration have destroyed the living standard of the working class in America. What is ostensibly the base of the Democratic Party is taking the worst hit in history because of these unbelievably uninformed policies of this president and his colleagues.
And of course, that was Steve Wynn. Now, Don, that's amazing, because you all come from the same circle in a sense. You're all very successful developers, which I'm sure you have all the same problems. So why is it that you differ so much?
Look, I think Donald is in an orbit all on his own, and Donald's a friend, and in fact, his family, his kids are friends of mine. His daughter and I are good friends, and I certainly respect what Donald has done as a business person, and certainly as a entertainment personality, he's done an amazing job. But in terms of politics, Donald's just off base here. Look, the president is certainly supportive of the business community, and he's supportive of growing our businesses, and he's very supportive of the private sector and small businesses. So I think that he's off base. And, look, I think Steve, Steve Wynn, who's an amazing entrepreneur as well, I think that, they look at little snippets and little tidbits of what the president has to say or what he said, and they take it out of context and they make more out of it than it is. Look, I disagree with President Obama with regards to increasing taxes. I do not believe that a tax increase at this time is appropriate, and have articulated that many, many times. I think that it's appropriate to increase taxes when we have a robust economy and we have controlled spending. And until that takes place, I don't think anyone should be paying more in taxes. I do think, though, that the approach of how we govern, and this nation is a nation that's based far more on many broad issues as opposed to just an economic issue in terms of taxes or businesses. This is a nation of individuals and individual rights and a land of opportunity. And so when we judge a president, we need to judge a president on the broad spectrum. And if you look at what President Obama has done in terms of our country's reputation globally and the relationships that we've had globally, he's been an amazing success. And the economy that we find ourselves in is not one of his creation. He got elected to help solve it, and he's taken some steps to do that. And the problem is far bigger than anyone had contemplated, and it was not of his making. It was administrations prior to him getting into office, and so to lay it on his doorstep also is inappropriate.
But he has to take. But you agree, though, as everybody does, he has to take some responsibility. He can't lay it all at Bush, right?
Oh, no, I think he has to take some responsibility,
sure.
And has. And I do believe that there have been areas where he has missed, the issue. I think that, how we spent our stimulus money, I think it could have been spent more effectively. I think he and his administration and others in Congress have underestimated the impact that the housing industry has on our economy. And we're not going to get back on track as a nation in our economy until the housing market gets back on track. That's what it's going to take. We're going to have to get back on track on housing, and we go from there. The president now recognizes that, and you see some steps, and he's going to take more. But this president really wasn't a president that came into office with vast economic skills. He came in as a leader, and much more of a global leader as opposed to a leader on economic issues. And so we're seeing some of that now. And so, there's going to be some trial and error. There has been some trial and error, and there'll be some more. And but I believe that based on the alternatives out there, I think that the president is clearly the best choice. And I tell Donald, I would tell Donald right now that if he really believed that he could do a better job running the country, he ought to run for office, because that's what our system's all about. Serving the private sector, taking what you learn in the private sector and bringing it into the public sector. And certainly he's got great name recognition. He's got financial resources. And so he ought to run for office.
I don't think.
And let the public determine whether they want Donald Trump or Barack Obama, and put himself on the line. You know, look, it's easy to Monday morning quarterback. It's easy to sit on the sidelines and in the cheap seats and say, hey, you know, I do this better, or I do that better. But at the end of the day, when you're putting yourself into harm's way and rolling your sleeves up and having to get the job done, it's a big difference. And I think that's where, I think that's where Steve and Donald, miss it. And the fact is, it's much more difficult to run the United States than for us to run our businesses. Our businesses we have a myopic view. We're basically looking to create profitable enterprises, and our decisions are governed almost entirely on what's in our best financial interest. Well, you can't run a nation that way.
All right, we're going up against a hard break, and when we get back, we're going to ask Don what would he do to create jobs. God, we need jobs. We'll be right back with Don Peebles. People in a moment.
You're listening to Phil's Gang on the Off the Wall Street Radio Network. We'll have more in just minutes. For over 12 years, Phil Grande, host of Phil's Gang, has been teaching his subscribing members how to buy, sell, and short stocks, and the people are responding.
Following your system has been fantastic. I've been with you for about a month and a half now, and I'm already up 7%.
I now feel comfortable trading. I never did for 40 years of my trading.
I want to thank you again. The 25-share philosophy, you're 100% right. Thank you. I thank you from the bottom of my heart.
You brought this stock to our attention. It worked out great. I appreciate that. Well, thank you, Phil. This month I've been making money on all the stocks you suggested.
You do an excellent service.
If you're a beginner or a Wall Street tycoon, Phil's Gang helps you navigate through the useless fundamentals and assists you in focusing on what the stock chart trends are. Maybe it's time for you to join Phil's Gang. For more information on Phil's Gang, go to philsgang.com. That's philsgang.com. Or give them a toll-free call at 877-600-GANG, 877-600-4264. A recognized leader in the Sarasota real estate industry, Jason Grande is a consummate specialist in luxury waterfront properties and premier golf course communities. Jason Grande values the relationships he builds and takes pride in every transaction. A Michael Saunders realtor, Jason Grande strives to make buying and selling a home a memorable and exciting experience. Why not give Jason a call today at 941-504-6678. That's 941-504-6678. And now, more of Phil's Gang on the Off the Wall Street Radio Network.
And welcome back to Phil's Gang. Our guest is chairman and CEO of the Peebles Corporation, the largest African-American real estate development company. $4 billion development portfolio. Don, let's go back a little bit, talk about jobs for a moment. Now, the stimulus. Now, and I want to make clear to you, I voted for Obama. I'm an independent, but I don't think I would vote as an independent for Obama again. Some of the questions I have, for example, everybody's talking about how the stimulus worked. I'd like to get your opinion, but first let me say this. See, I don't think the stimulus created or saved the amount of jobs that they're telling us, because I know that many of these jobs, or at least 45% of that stimulus money went to hire not people who are unemployed, but folks like me to go out and raid another company to get employees. And the stimulus, I think a lot of it, went into companies like Solandra, and I think, the stuff that just didn't work. And I also think that a lot of that was not to stimulate jobs, but a lot of it was used to stimulate supporters. Thank you. I mean, that's my judgment. But let's go to, did you really think the stimulus worked?
I think some parts of it worked. Look, I think that what they did in restructuring General Motors, that was an amazing job. The government's actually made money off of it, and we saved a lot of jobs, and we brought General Motors back to being a competitive company. And I think that tells you something also about what's happened with our manufacturing industry, that the cost of labor and the cost of benefits are uncontrolled, and they've paralyzed and burdened our companies. So I think that you look at what was done there. I think saving the banks, and the approach taken with TARP also was, we had to save our financial system from collapse, and I think it was clear we were on the brink of collapse. But I think that the money in the stimulus program should have gotten to the average American citizen, and the way to do that is to have done it through housing. The fact is, right now, this economy is limping along because housing is limping along. There is a significant amount of demand for new housing, but what's happened is that the existing housing supply has not found its bottom yet, and that's why you see these amazing occupancy rates for apartment rentals. So what we need to do is we need to, first of all, get the banks to have to go back to market, as opposed to not only realizing the losses when they take place. And then the stimulus money should have gone in, and money should go into allowing these mortgages to be bought down. That just like Donald Trump or Steve Wynn and me, in our business, when the values of our properties decline significantly and they go way below their mortgage amounts, we can sit down and have a conversation with our lender and restructure our loans, as Donald and Steve have done, to restructure the loan to, one, right-size the interest rate and reduce the principal amount on the mortgage. And so why can't the average American get that same benefit?
Well, they can't. Well, let me just say, I just want to, while you're on now, because we're running out of time, that's interesting because, as you know, he went in and he put up $75 billion for the HARP and FHA Secure HAMP program, saying that he wanted to help out 9 million people that are facing foreclosures, but we only got to 500,000. That part of stimulus was a total failure. And I'm on the same track with you. I mean, and I also think that we should do the same thing with like we did with the RTC years ago. And that these houses should be foreclosed on. People shouldn't be living in it for 2-3 years. And let's do the same things we did. I think it was in the late '80s we did with the RTC. Do you agree with that? And not rent them. The president's talking about renting them now.
No, what should have happened, these properties should have gone into foreclosure. We need to find the bottom.
There you go.
Because until the bottom of the housing industry is discovered, the new qualified buyers aren't buying because they're not going to want to make a purchase on a home where there's a distinct possibility that they're going to lose value. So until the bottom is found, and that's what Bush did, the first Bush, during the savings and loan crisis, and what Clinton and Bob Rubin and Roger Altman, when they were at Treasury, forced to take place, and that is finding the bottom, and then letting everybody be accountable for their actions and their consequences of their actions. I don't believe in this idea that people were qualified for mortgages that they shouldn't have had, and therefore they've been wronged. The fact is that if they got a mortgage that they weren't qualified for, they got a benefit of it, but the benefit's now over, and we need to find the bottom. For the good of the country, we need to find the bottom of this housing market and get it turned around. And once the housing market is turned around, then you will see how the economy turns around. Because if we all drive around our communities, wherever we live, whether it's Florida, New York, Virginia, Texas, we'll see all these building supply stores, all these related businesses that are all affected by the housing industry, and that's why people aren't working.
We have to. I think we ought to raise interest rates because much of this money is being funneled. We only got 30 seconds. Love to have you back on, but much of the money I see being funneled in these banks is not flowing into the economy as productive loans. Sure, the elitists get the money at 0% and make a lot of money speculating, but that's not. That's the 1% crowd. That's not the guys getting foreclosed on. And I think they should really take and go into these banks and let's purge these banks and let's take their good assets and give them among the other banks. I just don't agree with keep bailing out these banks. I think they should have purged these banks.
Oh, I agree with you, and certainly we shouldn't be bailing them out if they're not infusing loans into the economy, small businesses and individual owners. But now they've all propped up their balance sheets. They've gotten free money, and what have they done with it? Nothing. And that's again part of our problem with our country is credit not available to small businesses.
Well, listen, we got to get you back on this. You're an interesting guy. There's so many things that we have in common. I'd love to talk to you again. Thank you for coming on, and let's do it again. There you have it, folks.
You're listening to Phil's Gang on the Off the Wall Street Radio Network. We'll have more in just minutes.